Ladies, if you ever want to see why men are done putting up with women, done with relationships, and done with marriage, this is a perfect example of why.
I didn't choose to be child free. I chose not to have babies with men who could barely even support themselves, let alone a baby.
And as always, it's all about the money, and only the money. Ladies, I hope you save this video and play back what this woman is saying the next time you want to make one of those videos that y'all seem to be making, asking, where did all the good men go? Why won't they approach us? Why won't they ask us out? Why aren't they wifing us up? Because while y'all love to ask those questions and can't seem to fathom why men are rejecting you, well, darns, let me explain it to you. You see, and I know this will come as a shock to most of you, men, especially the good ones, are seeing these videos too. And oh, by the way, all of your comments on them, supporting them. We're seeing how, with very, very few exceptions, you're allowing these women to speak for you, all of you, and show men just how truly toxic your mindset is towards them, and how you never, and I do mean never, take any accountability whatsoever for anything. Case in point.
I chose not to start a family with highly toxic men who had mental health issues that they refused to address.
Ah, she chose. Or to put it another way, she chased Chad after Chad, you know, the so-called toxic men, all while ignoring the good ones and treating them like garbage because, well, she knows her worth. And rather than acknowledge that it was her choices in who to chase, rather than admit she is to blame for seeking out the men that she was engaged with, instead she has decided to blame the men, all men, and absolve herself of any accountability or responsibility.
I chose not to have children with men who would ultimately themselves just become another child to parent.
Ah yes, the all men are children argument. Please. Here she's showing once again the mindset of most of today's modern women, which is again to lay off all of their actions and failures onto men, calling them children. Because, you know, somehow labeling men as children is going to make it all better.
Whatever the reason, the choice to be child free for some women is very important. I chose not to procreate with losers.
Huh, or is it, and I say this with all due respect, that men chose not to procreate with her? Could it be that men, the ones she suddenly wanted to procreate with, chose not to deal with her negativity and toxicity towards them? Could it be that those men chose to avoid dealing with her unwillingness to acknowledge her own faults, her unwillingness to accept any responsibility, and her never-ending drama? Or is it that the men she ignored and treated like trash while she chased the Chads and Tyrones for 20 years, hoping they'd stop P&D'ing her only to eventually realize that's all they're ever going to do, who've now told her thanks, but no thanks. We're not interested in dealing with you. Sorry, ladies, but you've made your bed, and now you get to lie in it alone, or with your half-dozen cats. And I hate to break it to you, and I'm not trying to be mean but help you when I say this, but while you may think you aren't like this woman, if you're alone and childless, it's a pretty good sign you are. And if you want to try and cope by blaming all the men that you've dated for the bad choices you've made time and again, then by all means do so. But know this, men are done dealing with that mindset and done with you. They're walking away from your never-ending toxicity and blaming them for your bad choices. And while you may think going around making videos and saying things like this, attacking men as so many of you are, is going to somehow make men want you or take away from the reality of your ending up alone, the truth is, it's only doing the opposite. In fact, it's doing more than the opposite. Because as I said earlier, good men are seeing this and realizing that it's not just some women, but most that have this mindset. And that there's nothing to be gained in wading through all the bad ones in hopes of finding a good one. Because these days, it's not like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's like trying to find a needle in a stack of needles.